Can the Penrith Panthers make it 4 straight premierships this season? In this video, I'm going to go through where I think each team is going to finish on the ladder, how many wins they're going to get, and the reasons why. And we're going to go through whether each team can get over or under their season wins total and whether their premiership odds are greater or less than what they really should be. So then you can make good betting decisions, not just for your futures markets, but you can get an idea on how these teams are going to perform this season from an attack and defensive perspective. Also, we're going to cover which team is most likely to win the premiership, who the dangers are, based on critical stats that we've seen over the past 10 years on what it takes to win the premiership. So we'll start with 17th position. The West Tigers have them winning 6 games this season. That's +2 from last year. Last year, they were 17th attack, 14th defense. They really struggled away from home, but Benji Marshall coming in to coach this year. Luke Brooks leaves, so they brought in Aiden Caesar, who did get Canberra to a grand final back in 2019. Justin Olam comes across from Melbourne. Key thing with the Tigers is being able to convert their chances in attack, which they may be slightly better at this season, and technically can't really be much worse. But other than that, they definitely need to improve defensively. Teams just run right over the top of them. Their season wins is at 7.5. It's hard to see them winning 8 or more games, probably next season or the year after. Key in attack is Api Koroisau playing dummy half. He's going to be the key leader in their attack, as there's a bit of uncertainty in their halves with Luke Brooks leaving. So then in 16th, the Dragons have them coming down to 6 win or up to 6 wins. So that's +1 from last year, but I have them going under their season wins total at 7.5. The bookies have moved that down from 8.5 back in 2023. And bottom 4 team, both sides of the ball, 14th ranked attack, 16th ranked defense. They lost all 12 games on the road last season, and they've been terrible in that situation for the past 5 years. Only won 14 of 58 away games. Wooden spoon favorites this year. They got Shane Flanagan coming into coach, who won a premiership with the Cronulla Sharks, but it's going to take time to build up what this current squad has. Weak forward pack, which makes it difficult to score points and get any sort of field position to get chances to score. And the other question mark with the Dragons that was well publicized last year was Ben Hunt wanting to leave. He stays in the team this year, playing halfback, and captaining the side, but how much motivation is there? Is he still wanting to leave? What's the situation? And they got lots of improvement on both sides of the ball to make. Canberra Raiders in 15th, they got them coming down to 6 wins. They won 13 games last year, so they're -7. I think they're going to have a big drop off this year, as kind of, the odds suggest. They don't really have the right players in key positions. Jamal Fogarty stays at halfback, but outside of that, they don't really have any key playmakers or any good players in their spine as it currently stands. They're a -137-point differential last year. So even though they made the top 8, they were only winning games by small margins. They won 9 of 14 games decided by 6 points or less. So they got pretty lucky in those close games. So I just don't think their defense is going to be strong enough to keep them in as many games this season. And then without Jack Wyden, and those key playmakers to put points on when they get their chances, I don't think they're definitely a bottom 4 side this year. They've been slow starters the past 2 seasons as well. They went 1-5 and 2-6 through the opening rounds. So as we've seen over the years, they get a lot of their wins during that mid part of the season, during Origin period, especially home games. So that's the good opportunity to attack them there. The season wins line at 8.5. I think it's going to go under that number. I think it's set a touch high just because they did win 13 games last season. In 14th, the Bulldogs have them staying at 7 wins this season. They've improved a little bit from a lineup perspective, but they got to improve their conversion percentage as well. So they are the 16th ranked attack and worst defense in the competition last year. Only won 4 games at home, 3 on the road. They have a decent enough backline, to be competitive. Not really any standouts. Stephen Crichton comes across from Penrith, but their forward pack doesn't really give them enough opportunity to put points on the board, because they can't control the field position. So that is definitely a key area of improvement. Need to improve meters gained up the field and also not giving him so many meters up coming back. And then also interestingly, last season, they went 3-2 through the first 5 rounds. And then from that point forward, lost 15 of their final 19 games. And those wins were against the Dragons, Dolphins, Titans, and Rabbitohs. So even though they did have injuries, they really didn't finish off the season well. Hard to see them going over, winning 10 plus games. They've only done that once in the past 7 seasons. And the bookies have brought the win rate down from the 11.5 last year, a little bit lower expectations this year, down to 9.5, but it's still slightly difficult to see them clearing that number. The Titans are a team I think can improve slightly this year, going from 9 wins up to 11. They were a good attacking side last year, ranked 8th, but struggled defensively and struggled on the road. They're 15th ranked defense, only won 3 games away from home. Those are 2 key areas to improve. They have a good forward pack to give themselves chances. Des Hasler comes in to coach. I think that's going to improve the side. Just need to improve their conversion rate in attack a little bit more, but definitely need to tighten up their defense. Opposition teams just run right over the top of them, which makes it hard to win games. There are another team similar to the Bulldogs who struggled in the second half of last season, only winning 2 of their last 10 games. And those games were against Cowboys and Bulldogs. Their season win over under is set at 10.5. They haven't won 11 or more games since 2016, but they do get a good opportunity to do that. I think they're going to be right on that mark, probably that 10 to 11 win rate. So I think their season win over under is pretty much bang on the money. Cowboys won 12 games last year, have them coming down to 11 this season. They're a pretty lowly ranked side, like from a statistical perspective, ranked 11th in attack, 11th in defense. Won 8 of 12 at home, but only won 4 games on the road. They consistently struggle on the road, only winning 24 games away from home in the past 6 seasons. I think for them to make finals this year, they're going to have to win 10 plus games at home just because of their performances on the road aren't that good. They do have good players in the lineup, Tom Dearden, Valentine Holmes, etc. Chad Townsend is kind of getting to a little bit more towards the end of his career. He'll need to play like a leaderish role on the field. They've only won 13 plus games once in the past 6 seasons. So I can't see them clearing the 12.5 win rate. I think they're going to fall into that 10 to 12 win category. That's why I have them at 11 wins. In 11th position, I have the Parramatta Eels, have them staying at 12 wins this season. Very similar to what their season win over under is at 12.5. They're a team that is definitely capable. They're kind of mid-pack attack and defense. So okay on both sides of the ball. But they're definitely a team that kind of has a tendency to beat up on bad teams and then not perform well against the better sides. However, last season, they did beat the Panthers both times they faced them. So that's definitely a positive in its own right, as they can get up for those games. They just need to do it more consistently. They do have a tough opening 5 rounds to get through. So that's going to be key to how their season kind of shapes up. Last season, they kind of started a little bit slow, losing 4 of their first 5 games. But previous seasons, they have been good during the opening 2 months of the season. They got that good forward pack to give Moses and Dylan Brown opportunities down in attack. So they're definitely a team that's going to be right on the fringe of the top 8. I can see them, finishing 9th to 11th in that range, probably more so towards the 10th to 11th, just outside a couple of, probably 1 or 2 wins outside the top 8. The Redcliffe Dolphins are a team I think can improve this season. They won 9 games in their opening year. Can see them moving up to 12 this year. They've got some good recruits coming in from the Broncos in Harry Farnworth and Flegler. And all those young players they had last season are going to improve with that experience of playing that first season. They showed they're capable of putting up plenty of points, but just definitely need to improve defensively. That's like key area that let them down last season, especially away from home, conceding 28 or just over 28 points in away games. So need to tighten that area up. Probably win a couple more games at home this season, maybe 1 more on the road to get them into top 8 contention. If they make it, they're going to be right on the fringe, 7th or 8th, but I can see them just missing out. But they're definitely a team, if they stay fit and healthy and avoid injuries, like they kind of fell off a little bit last season when those injuries came through, but they definitely have that backline to convert chances. So if they stay fit, I think they can put a whole season together and be right in the running come finals time. Then the Rabbitohs have them just missing finals this year, in at 12 wins, same as last year. I can't see that much improvement. 13th ranked attack, 9th ranked defense. Struggled at home last year. Last year was the first year they had a losing record at home. They only averaged 18.1 points per game at home matches. Latrell Mitchell is going to be key for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He needs to stay fit. Obviously, Jack Wyden coming into the centers takes a little bit of pressure off of Latrell, and if he's probably going to miss games, I think since he's come across the Rabbitohs, he's only played 14 to 17 games each season. So you know that he's probably going to miss 5, 6, 7, 8 games. So how they cope with that, Damien Cook and dummy halves, 33, Cody Walker's 34. So I'm not really like loving the fact that two players in their spine are both, you know, playing in their second last seasons. And then Ilias playing halfback, kind of not quite at the level yet. So I don't know, probably wouldn't surprise me to see the Rabbitohs drop backwards a little bit. Their season win over under at 13.5, I think is far too high. At bet, like I've probably been a little bit generous giving them 12 games. Like on paper, they're a good side, but you know, they may start the season slow. They got to go to Vegas to play Manly, then play Brisbane at Suncorp, then play the Roosters. So they got a pretty tough opening 3 weeks. And how they continue on after that is going to be interesting, but they do need to get through the season without injuries to those key players and with aging players in the halves and at hooker. I'm just slightly concerned, but they're definitely a capable team, but we'll definitely get a good indication on how they're going through the first month of the season. Before we get into the top 8 sides, what I quickly want to touch on is why I have rated these teams the way I have, how I've kind of come up with these season wins, because it's definitely not based on my opinion. The 7 different factors that I use to determine how many games I think a team is going to win. Firstly, that is their season stats and rankings. So their performances on attack and defense and their efficiency ratings, their fixture strength and where that ranks in the league. So whether they have an easy draw or a more difficult draw, especially compared to previous seasons, their lineups and recruits. So new players coming in or losing players that were key to their performances last season, especially in key positions or areas of weakness from previous seasons. Projected wins last season, how many games should they have won? Because a lot of the time, the amount of games that a team wins isn't what they should have won. There's teams that won more games than they should have and teams that won less games than they should have. That's based off the points they've scored, points conceded, also their close game results, how they performed in games that were decided by 6 points or less. Their expectation for last season, how they performed up to that expectation and what that now looks like going into this season. And then the quality of opponents that they won and lost against last season. Were they beating up on bad teams and struggling against better teams? Or did they beat the better teams that struggle against the worst teams? So therefore they have a little bit of areas for improvement there. So they're the factors that I'm actually looking at. These aren't just purely based on my opinion, whether I think that team's good or bad. So jump back into it. Manly Sea Eagles, can see them moving into the top 8 this season. They won 11 games last year, have them moving up to 13 this season. Going over their season win over under at 12.5. Key for them is staying fit. Tom Trbojevic especially, as that's critical to their attack. They get Luke Brooks coming into the lineup, who is going to complement Daly Cherry Evans really well. So I like their halves combination. They're strong defensively, which keeps you in a lot of matches. They're number 4 ranked defense and they're number 6 ranked attack. And with Trbojevic playing a full season, if that happens, like they're going to be a top 4 attacking side as well this season, which is going to have them right up there. Easier schedule this year as well. Melbourne Storm, have them dropping back slightly, but definitely not ruling them out. They're number 2 attack last season, number 6 defense, We know they're always really good at home, but I have them just coming back ever so slightly from 16 wins down to 14. I just don't think they're as strong as an overall team. If they do get injuries to key players, that's going to hurt them a lot. But they're just always around the mark. Last year, they had lots of injuries, but still managed to finish third. So they're definitely a top 8 side, as the odds suggest, at $1.40. I think they're too short at $9 to win the premiership. Their season win at 13.5. The bookies are definitely expecting them to drop off a little bit, but they have won 14 or more games every year for the past 10 seasons. Warriors I have finishing in 6 on 15 wins, very similar to last season. They really put it together. Back in 2022, they only won 1 of 12 games away. They improved that record to 8-6 last season. Number 7 attack, number 7 defense. So they're solid at both sides of the ball. Sean Johnson, obviously getting a little bit older, but I feel like last season he transitioned into more of a game management player as opposed to, trying to make line breaks, sidestepping, etc. But last year they started favorite in 17 games, won 14 of those. So I think I can definitely see them clearing their 12.5 win over under. I have them winning, 14 to 16 games, kind of in that range. We know they're going to be very hard to beat over in New Zealand, and they have the second easiest fixture this year, which is a lot easier than they had in 2023. The Newcastle Knights have also moving up slightly. They're another team I think will definitely clear their season win over under at 11.5. Have them winning 15 games. Number 3 attack, number 3 defense. So solid both sides of the ball. Very good at home last year, winning 10 of 13. Last year they were favorites, or they not favorites, but they were $6 for the wooden spoon last year. So they definitely really exceeded expectation there. Win over under was 6.5 last year. So to move that up to 11.5 is a pretty big jump. But the team has improved dramatically from what was expected. Like their timeline of when they were expected to be good has really accelerated. Kalen Ponga staying fit is definitely crucial for the Knights. And there's lots of really good trends with the Knights, which I'm going to record a team by team preview and go through all the betting data from not just last season, but previous seasons, find the trends of how teams perform so you can find good betting opportunities throughout the season. So make sure you keep an eye or look on the channel for team by team previews. In this video, I'm just giving you like that quick short snapshot of how I think that team's going to go, but then we'll deep dive into what's going to make them perform that way through the individual videos. Cronulla Sharks have finishing in 4th. I think they can put together a pretty similar season to last year, maybe go 1 win better. I think they can improve at home compared to what they did last season, only winning 7 games at home. 5th ranked attack, 10th ranked defense. They definitely need to improve defensively. They've made finals 8 of the past 9 seasons, so I think they're definitely a top 8 side once again. 360 to make top 4, I feel like is a touch of overs. Don't think they're good enough defensively to win the premiership, but with the easiest draw in the competition, I think it's going to be hard to keep them out of the top 4, top 5 teams come the end of the season. Obviously, Nicho Hynes staying fit throughout the year is going to be key. He likely won't get picked for Origin, so that's going to benefit the Sharks as well. Will Kennedy, they missed him at the end of last season as well, so him playing a full season is going to be really good. Statistic-wise, they're a good team. They just need to be able to put teams away. Just quickly coming back to it, at home, as I said, they only won 7 games last season, but they lost 3 games by 4 points or less. So at home, there's a few games that they just missed. I think they can pick up a couple more of those this year. And the ones that they were winning by big margins. So it's not like they were winning close games and losing close games. They're winning easily and losing by small margins. So I have them right up there and definitely going over there, 12.5 win total. The Broncos on 16 wins. They won 18 last season. I think they'll just drop back a little bit. They lose a couple of key players, but they do get a much easier draw. And a few of those young players who, they're expecting to be top players in 2026 kind of range. I think those players have come along pretty well. They can perform better at home this season, but I think they overperformed on the road. They haven't always been a great road team, but last year they won 11 of 13 away from home. So I think that might come back a little bit, but they might be a little bit better at home. So I I can't see them winning 18 games again, even with an easier draw. Adam Reynolds getting older as well. So if they do lose him, it does put a lot of pressure on Ezra Mam. But he played in a really good grand final for so they're coming along as well. Key with the Broncos is how they come through losing the grand final the way they did. Sometimes psychologically that can really affect teams. Other times it can really motivate teams. So we'll get a good indication. They do have a pretty tough first 6 weeks. Play the Roosters over in Vegas, then South Sydney, then they play Penrith down in New South Wales, Cowboys, then they go to Melbourne to play the Storm, and then against the Redcliffe Dolphins. So a pretty tough, opening 6 weeks. So I wouldn't be rushing into the $4.30 for the premiership for the Broncos at all. I think that number will definitely get out as the season goes on. They definitely will be a top 8 side and pushing for top 4 again. I can't see them dropping off being the number 2 defense and number 4 attack from last year. Then the Sydney Roosters, I have them moving up 13 wins last year up to 16 wins this season. On paper, they're a really good side. They just didn't put it together in attack last year. Like Sam Walker gelling with Keary in the halves didn't really work, and then just too many errors and everything in the full pack. Just things weren't working in attack. Statistically, they're down there with the Dragons, Bulldogs, and West Tigers. So on paper, that shouldn't be the case, but that was what happened last year. However, they still managed to win 13 games during the regular season. Their win-loss at 13.5, I think, is too low. They can definitely be winning 15, 16 games this season. They'll definitely be right up there in finals. Top 4, $2.50, I feel like is a touch of overs as well. I am surprised they've moved the win-loss line from 16.5 last year down to 13.5. I feel like that's a pretty big jump for a team that, is number 5 defensively, but just struggled to put it together attack. And that'll be the key area of focus for them to improve this year. And then in top spot, the Penrith Panthers, 17 wins. It's hard to see, obviously they lose Stephen Crichton and they got to make the trip over to the UK at the start of the season, but it's hard to see Penrith not being a top 2 team again this season. Their defense is just so strong. Like in almost every category, they're the number 1 defense, and they're also the number 1 attacking side. Really hard to beat at home, out in Penrith, going for 4 straight premierships. No players are feeling like they're dropping off all that much. Perhaps they got a little bit lucky to win the grand final last year with the Broncos completely dropping off that final 20 minutes. Key with Penrith, and I don't think you need to rush into the premiership price at all at the 370 mark, because they do have a fairly tough start to the season. So you got to watch how they get through that period. But then about week 7, week 8, they have a fairly easy draw through Origin and a fairly easy end to the season. If all their key players get through the Origin period and obviously through the season without being injured, then they're really going to be hard to beat come finals time. Any injuries, especially to key players, may be the reason why they may not win the premiership this year. But if they stay healthy, then they're really going to be hard to beat. Reason being is teams that are really strong defensively are really hard to beat when it comes to winning the premiership. As you see, this is the list of premiers all the way back to 2012. This is the defensive average points conceded. You can see how many times the team that won the premiership was ranked number 1 or number 2. There was only 2 times, being the Sharks and Cowboys, that a top 2 defensive side hasn't won the premiership, but majority of the time it's been the number 1 defensive side, especially when you pair that with a top 4 attacking side. So you just need to be pretty much top 2 defense, top 4 attack, and you're right in the running. So when we look at teams from last season, from the attacking and defensive perspective, from an attacking perspective, Panthers, Broncos are your top 2 attacking sides. Are very similar, right up there in points scored, with Storm, Newcastle, and the Sharks not all that far behind 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then from a defensive perspective, Panthers were well and truly a long way clear as the number 1 defensive side. And then Broncos, Knights, Storm were the 3 below them. So I feel like Penrith aside from injuries, are going to be hard to beat, but you don't need to rush into the premiership price or anything at this stage, as I mentioned, but they're definitely the team to beat. Teams that can beat them, if the Roosters can put it together in attack, I feel like they're a definite winning chance this season. Aside from them, Broncos are the other team who's very strong defensively and capable of putting on points. I feel like they're the three key hopes this season, but injuries, assigning any injuries, Penrith are going to be the team to beat throughout the season, which, isn't all that exciting, which is why technically I don't really care that much about betting on just one team to win the premiership. This is why to make money betting on the NRL, you bet throughout the season, you bet every single week and find matchups and situations to find teams. So that's why I base everything off the data and statistics. And for each team, I'm going to cover and record videos covering how you can back that team throughout the season, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and how to take advantage of that from a betting perspective to make money. So make sure you hit subscribe, check out the channel for more videos covering all the teams to get ready for the 2024 NRL season.